if sales job isn't getting easier, you know whose fault that is? It's marketing, right?
Yes, it is.
You're listening to the Flip My Funnel podcast, a daily podcast dedicated to helping B2B marketing, sales, and customer success professionals become masters of their craft. It's Friday, so this is our #OneHero episode. In these episodes, we highlight and celebrate a blog post and contributor from our community and discuss topics surrounding sales, marketing, and customer success. Here we go.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Flip My Funnel podcast. My name is Kaitlin Lutz, and I'm so excited today because we have Justin Keller, who is the VP of Marketing at SixRuno. So welcome,
Thank
Justin.
you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
So glad to have you here. So your team did something really cool last night. You guys won an ABME for the best pipeline acceleration campaign, the marketing team at SixRuno. That's pretty cool.
I'm still a little bit shaky with joy from the whole thing. It was pretty amazing. Yeah.
Did you sleep with your award?
I did not, but I'm actually having a big gold chain fitted to hold it so I can walk around with it all the time.
Ooh, that's nice. That'll look really good. So, in this episode, I would just love to walk through your campaign, the best pipeline acceleration campaign.
Yeah.
And, why did you win that award? What made your pipeline acceleration campaign successful?
I think it was a couple of things. One, we made it super brain dead simple for the sales team, right? So they just kind of stayed in their flow, but we're delivering. The second reason I think we won was the right content at the right time. So the ability to kind of know for a fact where a prospect was in the opportunity, in their opportunity stage or in their journey, and deliver the content that was the most relevant to them then. And thirdly, it was just kind of totally passive. The salesperson got to be authentic and develop a relationship and not try and force content down someone's throat. They just got to kind of focus on the relationship aspect of it and riding shotgun. So the whole thing, maybe I should back up a little bit. So the mechanics of how this whole thing worked, we use SixRuno for this campaign. So without being a commercial for ourselves, are basically able to deliver targeted ads that are targeted on any number of criteria. But in this case, it was targeted off of the persona and the opportunity stage, right? So if I'm selling to a marketer and I know that we are, kind of very early stage conversation, the sales team is doing their thing. They're developing a relationship. But in the signature section, they're getting an ad that gets kind of very email signature marketing 101, like very top of the funnel content. Right. And then as that opportunity develops, they get, the content moves down the funnel. As they move into tech evaluation, they get, here's everything your IT team needs to know. And we start targeting the IT team with those ads too, right? So at any time someone from the sales team is emailing someone from the IT team, SixRuno knows that and is able to direct the right kind of content to them that's relevant to that persona at that stage.
Right.
So we kind of went through the entire funnel and made a matrix of opportunity stage and personas and said, okay, this is the content that this person needs to know at this time. And from that point, it was automated. So no matter what email was coming from whom at the company, they were delivering the right content, but it was in a very kind of passive, gentle way where it's like if they want to engage with it, they can. Otherwise, they're just doing what email does, which is communicate.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have any metrics that you can throw around or a statistic?
I do, and I think I'm probably going to get it wrong off the top of my head. So it was one of those things where our sales team has grown. It's almost tripled over the past year.
Wow.
And so, when you're kind of factoring in ramp time and, that kind of will mess with your metrics, right? In spite of all that, our pipeline was accelerated, I think, 15 days. So our deal velocity almost 50% faster.
Wow.
I think, right? In the face of kind of having a growing sales team that we're still trying to train and get right. And that's another cool thing about it, right? Like when sales is in control of the content that sales is sharing, they don't have to be super good at knowing your entire content arsenal, right? Marketing can do what marketing is really good at and kind of identifying the audience and delivering the right content for it. And sales just does what they do and, build relationships, and sales is there kind of provide air support in a very intelligent way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's not a salesperson's job to be a marketer.
Exactly. No, they got a lot of other things to worry about.
Yeah,
they need to be they're the Marines, right? They're doing the one-to-one stuff, building the relationships, doing the networking and stuff. And I think the reason we were so successful with this campaign is because we took that off their plate entirely, and they didn't have to worry about what content or they needed to deliver to kind of accelerate the pipeline. Marketing took care of that for them.
Yeah, exactly. We're at the Flip My Funnel conference right now, and in Sangram's session this morning, he said that it's marketing's job to make sales job easier. And
yeah,
I mean, that's really what
it totally is. And then the flip side of that is, if sales job isn't getting easier, you know whose fault that is? It's marketing, right?
Yes, it is.
And like sales is defining their success on how good, like marketing's value is defined by the sales team.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's one of those things where it's also kind of selfishly, like as a marketer trying to kind of, what's the COA cover? CYA? Yeah. I don't want to use the bad word. I accidentally said the S word this morning in front of 1,000 people, and my mom's been in the back of my head.
Oh no. That's okay.
So anyways, they kind of see like that. This is great. Like the marketing team is delivering the right content. They don't have to worry about it. And it's like, they're like, thank you, marketing team, for making every email I'm sending a little more valuable.
Yeah, exactly. So where did you see a need for a campaign like this one? I mean, it might seem kind of obvious, we want to warm up these accounts and we want them to be served the right content.
It was like, I think that especially for content marketers that are listening to this, like they're going to feel this pain very much that, oh my God, we've got so much amazing content that is so like well tuned to all these different stages of the funnel, to all these different people, and the sales team just lets it sit there and collect dust, right?
What is it doing?
Like, it's so frustrating because you put all this work into it, right? And it's there. Like, I mean, it is so like, I mean, content's great for lead gen and education or whatever, but it's like, I mean, it's super valuable in the sales funnel. And when the sales team's not using it, it's super frustrating, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of born out of a need. I'm not throwing sales under. Our sales team's phenomenal and we're super well aligned. And hey, sales team, I love you. But, the ability to kind of make sure that we were maximizing the value of all of our content is really where that came from. And then, like, we really wanted to drink our own champagne and kind of use SixRuno to its fullest capacity. And so kind of making all these integrations where we're able to know who's where and what funnel, who they are, what company they're with, and align content to that automatically.
Yeah. So if you could go back to the beginning of this whole pipeline acceleration campaign, what would you do differently? What mistakes do you think that you made that you would change or iterate?
I think we kept a lot of our content a little bit too broad. So right now we're getting to the point where we've gotten I think at any given time we're running almost 400 campaigns simultaneously.
Wow.
And it took a while to get there, but I still want to do way more. And so I think the toughest part is hacking up your content and making it repurposable. Like, you don't want to no one's got the kind of time to spend building out 15 white papers for specific personas, right? You kind of have one good chunk of content and then you kind of slice and dice and turn it into other pieces. But you don't want to dilute it too much that it's not relevant anymore. So I think, kind of right sizing, how much content do we need to make this really work? It took us a little while to figure out. And it ended up being less than we thought, actually. I mean, we kept the content general enough that it applied to several audiences, but it still felt personalized to the recipient.
How did you slice and dice that content? What was the strategy behind that? Or how did you decide, this is the amount of content that we need for this amount of people?
So it kind of went back to that, that matrix, right? So we had list of all of our personas, and we only sell, I mean, there's probably 5-ish total people, maybe a little more, but in our average buying committee. So we kind of know who our audience needs to be, right, to effectively move pipeline, right? And then looked at all of the stages we've got, right? And so I think we've got 4 or 5 opportunity stages. And we tried to get, that ends up being, 20 to 30, depending on what my math looks like, 20 to 30 distinct pieces of content. And we didn't need that many. Right. So it doesn't take as much content as you'd think. I think the magic really happens is when you get it to the right person at the exact right time. I think that magical feeling is just as valuable as having it be a precisely tailored piece of content.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a good point that you mentioned earlier too is not just letting it sit and collect dust, because that happens with so much content. And also, the world, this B2B tech world that we all live in moves really fast. But, there could be a piece of content that you made 3-6 months ago that's still incredibly relevant, or even a year ago. Yeah. It's still incredibly relevant, but it hasn't been used for 9 months.
Totally. And I think that's another thing. It's such a waste, right? There's so much effort that goes into content, and then the shelf life is so short because you're so you're done and you're on to the next thing, right? And after a while, like you've just got a big like attic full of awesome content. And it's like, how do you go in and explore all the content you have and make it fresh all the time? And so we do, like, sometimes like it's just, we make campaigns out of old stuff, but sometimes we just like, like breathe new life into it. You update some stats and like put some new illustrations in it and treat it like it's a brand new piece of content. And it works really well, right? Yeah. And most people, like, if they've read it, they're not going to read it again, but it looks like a fresh piece to your audience. And so it looks like you're kind of constantly doing more than you actually are.
Yeah. And there's also that saying, you need to hear something. This is obviously probably a different context, but you need to hear something 3 times before you actually remember it.
Yeah.
And so maybe they read that piece of content or listened to it or saw it or whatever, however many months ago, but they need to see it. That may have completely left their mind.
Yeah. And if it's a really important, like if you are mapping content to a person in the stage, like unless your buying process radically changes, or your selling process radically changes, like that's valuable for a long time, right? So just kind of the ability to build it into your workflows is another thing. Like, hey, sales team, when you enter this stage, this piece of content is fire, right? This is just going to help you so much. You don't need fancy tools for it. You just need a really good communication and like making the resources obviously available.
Yeah, exactly. So last question I have for you is, if you could give one piece of advice to anyone who is looking to run a really great pipeline acceleration campaign like the one that you guys did and won the ABM for, what piece of advice would you give?
Keep the momentum going, and you can't keep the momentum going just by being annoying in the email, right? Like that may work, but it's not like no one feels good about that. And I think the best way to keep momentum going is by keeping someone constantly excited, right? So think about like when you're watching Netflix, you're like binge watching Netflix, right?
I never do that.
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, I hear the kids do this all the time, but I have no idea. But keeping them excited for what's next, right? And leaving a little bit, like, I mean, it's tough to do when it's like, and depending on what industry you're in, you may or may not be lucky enough to have very interesting content. But like set the anticipation for the journey you're going to set them on, right? Like the buyer's journey should be a fun thing, and you should be really obsessed with like every piece of the story, just like you're crafting like a really long show. Take them through a journey and make it a really enjoyable process, but don't be pushy about it, right? And so kind of find clever ways to sneak, fun content in front of people that's helpful to your process, but also doesn't feel like, you're trying to force them to click on your links. And that's another thing. Don't like package up an email with 5 links to all the content they're ever going to need, because it's almost like a weird psychological thing. If there's one link, you'll click on it. If there's 5 links, it's like, I'm not even going to get started with this, right?
Like, I don't even want to look at this.
I'm not even going to crack this book, exactly.
But you opened it. No, I'm not. I deleted it. Don't worry. Well, Justin, thank you so much for being here on the Flip My Funnel podcast. And congratulations again to the marketing team at SixRuno for your ABME.
Thank you. So proud of my team. I wish they could be here with me on this and tell me all the stuff I got wrong. But thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you.
You've been listening to the Flip My Funnel podcast. To make sure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast player. If you have an iPhone, we'd love for you to open the Apple Podcasts app and leave a review. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.